Peace, 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 everybody. We about to get started in like 30 seconds. Shout out to everybody in the building. Make sure you thumbing up the stream. Make sure you supporting the stream any way you can. PayPal, Cash App, Super Thanks. I take it all. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Shout out to everybody in the building. Thank you for the fire emojis. Remember, if you can't support monetarily, fire emojis will do. And hitting that reaction art. All engagement matters. Comment, comment, comment. Thank you. Good evening. What's up? 30 more seconds and we're going to get it going. Okay, shout out to everybody in the building. Peace, peace, peace. Let's just get started because it's kind of late. I wanted to start off with this. Shout out to everybody in the building. I'm going to start off with this right here. Can y'all see my screen? Yeah, let's do it like this. For all you who don't know, the Hantavirus, however you say it, virus, is in America officially because one of the people tested positive. Matter of fact, we're going to start this over. Family, I want to get into this. Let's look at this right now.
17 Americans and a dual U.S.-British citizen are back in the U.S. after being evacuated from the cruise ship at the center of a deadly hantavirus outbreak. 16 were taken to Nebraska to be observed and quarantined. 2 were brought to Atlanta. U.S. officials confirm at least 1 person is tested positive for the virus. That person remains in biocontainment. Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. said the U.S. has the situation under control and the administration is not worried. Roughly 150 people were on board the MV Hondius when the first patient got sick. Passengers started disembarking Sunday morning after it docked in Spain's Canary Islands. The ship set off from southern Argentina 41 days ago. Let's bring in CBS News Chief Medical Correspondent Dr. John LaPook for more working overtime today. So what is the latest today, and why are officials worried about this incubation period?
The whole thing about the incubation period is if somebody is exposed and they get infected, at any point in the next 6 weeks, they could get symptoms. And we know from previous outbreaks that, this virus, this Andes strain of hantavirus, was first identified about 30 years ago. So we know about it. The time when people are most contagious is when they first get symptoms.
And that's the problem right there. For all you who don't know, the plan is to bring these people back to America. They're already back in America. Put them in a facility, give them a BS checkup, and then release them back to wherever they live and wherever they at, they hometown, they city, and just monitor them. They're not keeping those people isolated for at least 6 weeks. They're not doing that. That's the problem right now. They bringing the people back and they're not going to keep them isolated, which means at any time, one of these people can get their checkup, go home. 2 weeks later, they get a cold or flu or whatever. They feel like they got a cold or flu or whatever, and they just still go to work, still go to the club, go to their local doctor, go to their local hospital, and then they're going to spread it. That's the issue at play here. The incompetence of the Trump administration is what makes this situation that shouldn't be that bad, that deadly, have the potential to be that bad, that deadly.
So what they don't want to have happen is somebody gets infected, they fly back to whatever little town or big town they come from, and they suddenly develop symptoms. And it could just be low-grade fever and sort of not feeling well. They think, yeah, I've got a cold, maybe I have the flu. And they expose a lot of people to this virus, and they infect a lot of people. So what happened here was we learned that somebody tested positive at some point, as they were being flown from the ship to Nebraska, we learned.
Exactly. Somebody tested positive. They thought nobody was positive. They was just going to do a checkup and monitor them. And look, somebody already tested positive. But hopefully they keep these people contained for at least 8 weeks. Forget 6 weeks, at least 8 weeks. But with RFK in charge and the Trump administration, you never know. But let's keep going.
That somebody tested positive. Now, if it's not a false positive and real, you say, wow, that is an example of public health working. Because had they just brought the person, in a regular airplane without any protection, they could have infected other people on the plane. But what they did was they put him that person, I don't know if it's a man or a woman, in a biocontainment pod. Remember when we had Ebola, they had those to try to protect people in flight. So that's an example of when public health works, nothing happens. And people sort of don't celebrate, right? When the 11-year-old girl falls off a bicycle wearing a helmet, doesn't get a skull fracture because she's wearing a helmet, nothing happens.
But what happens when it doesn't work because you got incompetent people in charge? What happens then? Because again, yeah, we know helmets keep you safe, but what happened when you got an incompetent parent who don't believe in helmets? And then the kid fall and hit their head. What then? Because right now, that's what we got. Remember, we had a bunch of outbreaks like this from SARS under Bush. We had swine flu under Obama, Ebola under Obama, Zika. The list goes on. And guess what? They all got handled. We get COVID under Trump. Everything go to shit. But why? Because Trump is an idiot. Then we need Biden to come in there and clean it up. Now we got the Hantavirus. Whatever virus. And we got RFK and Trump in charge. Yeah. Their incompetence is the issue. Like Trump's incompetence is the reason why COVID became a pandemic. His incompetence. So this shouldn't be a pandemic or shouldn't turn into some mass outbreak, but it's a possibility it could turn into that because of Trump's incompetence.
Gets immunized against diphtheria and they don't get infected, nothing happens. So you're looking in public health for nothing to happen. And so far, this is a good example.
Well, I love what you said on CBS Mornings today, which is this isn't just people telling you to believe this. You're looking at the science. And a lot of people on social media, all the comments, they're thinking, okay, this is the next COVID. This is not the next COVID, right?
100%. Okay. So what is reassuring to me is not, I like that the WHO is saying it's not going to be the next pandemic. I like the CDC is saying it. But what I'm reassured by is the whole public health effort and the science. We understand the underlying science here. This is a virus that we know about. And so I don't have to take somebody's word. I've read the whole literature now. I mean, there isn't that much literature. And I am convinced by what I read that the risk of widespread dissemination of this is very, very low. Why?
The problem is you got people in charge who don't believe the science. We are currently having a measles outbreak in America. Why? Because RFK doesn't believe in the science. He's promoting that measles don't matter. It's not that dangerous. You don't need the vaccine. We currently have a measles outbreak in America. A disease that's supposed to be effectively eradicated. We are having an outbreak in America in 2026. Why? Because they don't believe in the science. So yes, Hunter should not turn into no pandemic because we have all the science. We have the science, not all the science. We have the science on it, right? But what happens when the people in charge don't believe in the science? What happened when they don't believe in the science? That's the issue that people keep skipping over. These people don't believe in the science. They don't. They don't. Shout out to everybody in the building. We got over 60 people in the building. Let me see some of these comments real quick. Let me see some of these comments real quick. I don't know if they wanted to spread like COVID. Most likely they don't, but they just stupid and incompetent. That's the problem. No, Ebola was never an outbreak in America. And you know why it was never an outbreak in America? Because Obama was president during Ebola and he handled it like a president should. See, like the guy just referenced about how we had the people contained and we flowed them in the jets. Well, RFK and them is saying, well, we're going to fly them in the jets and we're going to bring them to the facility, but we're going to give them a checkup and send them home and monitor them their home and monitor them from there, which means they could be infected with the disease, and anytime in the next couple of weeks, they can get sick, and instead of being in a quarantine facility, they will be at home and they'll be going about their lives spreading it. That's how outbreaks happen. That's how pandemics start. We know who is sick. We know the incubation period, and we have places to house them. But they are saying they're not going to house them there. They're just going to give them a checkup. And if they don't test positive when they get that checkup, they're going to send them home and monitor them. This type of incompetence is like, this is how this could turn into an outbreak. And it'll be 1,000 times more deadly than COVID. Because remember, COVID shouldn't have been an outbreak. What is the official name of COVID? COVID SARS-2. I think that's the official name. But so if it's 2, which one is 1? 1 is COVID SARS-1, which happened under Bush, which is deadlier than COVID-2, by the way. The SARS that happened under Bush is deadlier than the one that happened under Trump. But guess what? As stupid as Bush was, he was smart enough to handle that, and that didn't turn into an outbreak. Yeah, coronavirus. Yeah. Like this is how this happened. Shout out for the fire emojis, Jackie. Remember, family, if you can't support monetarily or anything else, or you already gave me a like, whatever the case may be, you can drop fire emojis in the comments. Yeah, let's let this guy finish up.
So COVID was a virus that we had never seen before. And as it turned out, that it can spread across a room and infect somebody, especially with poor ventilation over time. This is basically spread rat to rat. Yes, it can jump through probably droplets in small, relatively short distances to somebody else. And that's how it would be spread person to person.
But it's dry environment.
In a dry environment. Well, it originally gets the rat. It occurs in a dry environment. I want to clarify that. So it's rat urine or saliva or feces in a dry environment. That's where you get the rat getting infected and infecting somebody else. But once a person is infected, it doesn't have to be in a dry environment to spread it to somebody else. That can just be, in the air through a droplet. And the big thing that people are worried about is, what if it spread across the room, to somebody that we don't realize that it can be spread just like COVID? And it turns out, from what we know about it, you always have to stay humble and say, have humble if things change. But from what we know about it, that this virus doesn't do that. So I feel comfortable, not just because I'm being reassured by somebody, but because the underlying science says, this is not going to be like COVID.
Dr. John LaPook, thank you. Exactly.
We can't know for sure. Shout out to everybody in the building. We cannot know for sure because of the incompetence of the people in charge. Matter of fact, let's look at this. So we can be complete. Let's look at this. Can y'all see my screen? Matter of fact, we're going to go to a shorter video. Matter of fact, we're going to go to this video.
Measles outbreak in South Carolina has now spread to at least 789 people. The surge in cases comes as the United States edges closer to losing its measles elimination status, which could happen as soon as this fall. That's because measles cases in 2025 hit the highest total in more than 30 years, with more than 2,200 cases reported across 45 states. Nearly all cases were among people who were unvaccinated or with unknown vaccination status. Let's bring in MS Now medical analyst Dr. Vin Gupta. Dr. Gupta, thanks for joining us. What do you make of, what do you think the reason is for this current status that especially this state is in?
Morning, Mika. We're already at 416 cases, we think, of those that are tested. So often there's underdiagnosis, but 416 at least cases already in 2026. And we know that this is because, as you pointed out in the TIA, an unvaccinated status amongst children. What we've seen now, we have a clearer sense of the country and vulnerability to measles. Mika, we're seeing some zip codes in the United States having a measles vaccine uptake rate of about 60%, which is just fodder for an outbreak that can get out of control, which is what we're seeing in South Carolina. This is impacting not just children, but the extremes of ages, those that are older, pre-existing conditions. So there's a lot of baked-in vulnerability right now across the U.S.
Dr. Gupta, obviously part of what's driving this, as you say, is under vaccination in South Carolina and other places, by the way, across the country. There's been a lot of conspiracy theories now that have moved up to the top of government leadership, people hearing that, people they trust saying, be careful with these vaccines. What can you tell parents watching today about the safety of a measles vaccine specifically, as it has been for generations now?
No, Willie, I know you and I have been chatting about this as we've been chatting with the broader team about this specific question. Is there anything new that parents should be worried about when it comes to the safety or efficacy of these vaccines? And the answer is, even though we have had to talk about it more for reasons that have nothing to do with medicine or new science, the truth is that there is no changes at all to safety guidance. There is no evidence saying that these are any less effective. These measles vaccines are incredibly effective at reducing transmission, at preventing severe illness. They are essentially the gold standard when it comes to preventing an infectious disease, Willie. So no new changes. I will say also for parents, those that live in places, now many more places across the country have this vulnerability. You may be one of our audience members right now, might be in one of those zip codes. What should you be on the lookout for? And this is where it's difficult because there's a lot of flu going around across the country. Early signs of measles, frankly, are not that different from flu or any other viral illness, for example, that might mimic the early symptoms of measles, but it's cough, runny nose, and pink eye can actually be the early signs of measles, which is confusing.
Yeah, but that's enough. I just wanted y'all to hear that. Like, we already are having a measles outbreak in America in 2026 because of RFK and the nonsense coming from him and people like him. A measles outbreak. Like what do people not understand? Who, like RFK, could possibly say, you know what? It's good that the Hantavirus is here. It could create stronger humans. Because it's a lot of people who think the Black Death was actually a good thing because it made Europeans stronger. Who's to say that RFK don't think that, well, Americans is too weak. We got all this autism running around, everybody on their phone and stuff. Maybe civilizational collapse would be a good thing. And we'll come back even stronger and better than ever before. And because we got all this modern technology, we can bounce back faster than ever before. Who's to say he's not thinking that? Remember, RFK has a hole in his brain, a literal hole in his brain. You know why? Because he ate bear meat. And the worms in the bear meat hatched in his body and crawled to and went to his brain and ate out his brain. Remember that. RFK has literal holes in his brain because worms he got from eating bear meat crawled to his brain and ate his brain. It ate his brain. Matter of fact, let's see if we could find that real quick. Let's see. Let's find a shorter video. Let's see if we can find a short about this.
There was an eye-opening.
Let's see. Shout out to everybody in the building.
There was an eye-opening headline tonight involving presidential candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. The New York Times reporting on a 2012 deposition during which RFK Jr. said doctors once found a parasite, a dead worm, in his brain. Tonight, what his campaign is now saying about this, and here's Kana Whitworth.
Tonight, new questions about the health of independent presidential candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. after he claimed a doctor discovered a dead worm in his brain. According to the New York Times, Kennedy testified in a 2012 deposition that he experienced memory loss at the time, saying, "I have cognitive problems," clearly. Kennedy said one of the doctors said it could have been caused by a worm that got into my brain and ate a portion of it and then died.
Most people will have at least some degree of cognitive impairment just because of the inflammation that goes on in the brain when a parasite has made a home for itself there. But there's really varying degrees to how severe that might be.
Kennedy testified he also suffered from mercury poisoning around the same time. Doctors interviewed by ABC News say both conditions could cause a wide range of health problems, but for most people, the impacts are often short-lived. The 70-year-old has touted himself as a physically fit alternative to President Biden, 81, and former President Trump, 77, the oldest candidates to ever run for the White House, even posting videos of himself doing push-ups and skiing with an Olympic gold medalist.
I go hike.
And for all you don't know, that's one of the reasons why RFK Jr. sounds the way he does. The worm ate so much of his brain. That's why his speech patterns like that is messed up. Terrible. That's who's in charge of our health, by the way. Also, he got a bunch of kids killed trying to do an experiment. He's not a doctor. He got a bunch of kids killed trying to do an experiment. Let me see. RFK got kids killed on the island. Let's see if we can find that real quick. Shout out to everybody in the building. Kids death. Let's see. Let's see. Yeah, children are dying from measles in America, but let's see this. I think it was on the island. I can't find it right now, but yeah, we all know what I'm talking about. Shout out to everybody in the building. Let's move on. Let's see something. You said you called Dreamers Pro a tether. George Lucas, you out of here. There we go. You're like bad. Not even like. We don't talk like that over here. Matter of fact, I'm not even banning you. I'm gonna put you on timeout to see what you got to say when you come back. Get your mind right, bozo. Shout out to everybody in the building. Shout out to King Darius. Yeah, he did that. Exactly. I'm getting that bozo out of here. But yeah, shout out to everybody in the building. Let's move on because it's like I just wanted to cover that real quick. That's crazy. But yeah, let's move on. Let's move on. Yeah, let's touch on this real quick. I think this is a good segue right here. I think this is a good segue. Can y'all see my screen? Can y'all still hear me? Okay, good. For all you who don't know, matter of fact, I'm gonna let the person explain. Make sure you like this video. Make sure you sharing this video. Make sure you hitting the thumbs up. You're doing all that good stuff, giving the video high points, everything, and donating if you can.
The Supreme Court clearing the way for Alabama to use a voting map that would eliminate a congressional district with a black majority. The latest followed after the court's ruling that gutted the Voting Rights Act. Jay O'Brien is on Capitol Hill. Good morning, Jay.
George, good morning to you. A lot of twists and turns, but much of it likely to impact those critical November midterms with control of Congress on the line. So this was a 6-3 Supreme Court decision that has now cleared a path for Alabama to eliminate one of just two majority black congressional districts in that state. Both are represented by Democrats, and it allows Republicans to be in the position of likely picking up one more safe Republican seat ahead of November. It's just the latest in a nationwide firestorm of redistricting that's gripped both Republican and Democratic states. And it comes just about 2 weeks after that major Supreme Court decision that gutted a section of the Voting Rights Act's protections that deal with redistricting by race. The Congressional Black Caucus now says that in the wake of that decision, roughly 19 or so of its members, just about a third of the caucus representing Republican-controlled states like Georgia, Louisiana, South Carolina, and more, could now be at risk of losing their seats this year and again in 2028. Meantime, Virginia, which had a referendum to redraw its congressional maps that would favor Democrats, is now asking the U.S. Supreme Court to step in to overrule its state Supreme Court, which threw out those maps last week. Robin.
So much to unpack there, Chase.
Yes, for all you don't know, the Supreme Court has basically cleared the way for these racists in the South to basically get rid of 1/3 of the Congressional Black Caucus. 1/3. Like before Trump is out of office, we can see literally 1/3 of the Congressional Black Caucus gone. And not only that, the majority of Black people losing their ability to have a voice in electing a representation, lose their voice and getting representation in Congress. Remember, those districts were created so Black people have a voice in this nation. Black people could elect officials who could speak up on their behalf in Congress. Mind you, the majority of Black people live in the South. Most of those districts will be gone. And then guess what? No representation, no voice. This is where we at right now. This is where we're at right now.
They split a whole city.
Yeah, let's keep it going. Shout out to everybody in the building.
Into 3 to make Black voters have less power.
It's in the Constitution. Get over it.
B. Ferguson
And
of
your point
1896.
is, bring it.
Because you're being utterly disrespectful.
Not at all.
Every voter in America, white, Black, or otherwise, can go cast a ballot right now.
A battle over redistricting that is playing out at the Supreme Court as Republicans and Democrats try to gain an edge in November's midterm elections. Today, the court's conservative majority cleared the way for Alabama to use a new congressional map that would eliminate a district currently held by a Black Democrat. The Supreme Court offered no explanation in its order, which tosses out a lower court decision that blocked the use of that 2023 map. There's already voting underway in that state. They are planning to toss out that map, go with a new map that favors Republicans, eliminates a district. And then you have the President Trump, sending a message to South Carolina, your home state, Bakari, saying the South Carolina State Senate has a big vote tomorrow on redistricting. He says, Republicans, be bold and courageous, just like the Republicans of the great state of Tennessee were last week. Move the U.S. House primaries to August. Leave the rest on the same schedule. Everything will be fine. Get it done. So
I want to take a step back and look at this from a
before we let him get that out the way. Josh, what do you mean Boston gangs? I don't know what you're talking about with a Boston gang. Peace. Shout out to everybody in the building. I didn't watch Umar's latest live stream, but you can tell me about it. Like, what about it that was like important? But yeah, let's get back to this. Make sure y'all dropping them fire emojis. You got 100 people in the building.
50,000 foot view, to be completely honest. I think Ashley and I have to wrestle with the fact that we are going to be the first generation to actually leave this country worse than the one that we inherited. There is a casual laughter from people we...
Exactly. I want to make, before they keep going, I want to make this clear. This is the first time in Black people's history, since we got out of slavery, that we have went fully backwards. I'm talking about, yeah, we have gone backwards where it's like 5 steps forward, 4 steps back. But at the end of the day, when we start moving, we still further ahead than where we started from. This is the first time in Black history that we have gone like 5 steps forward, and I want to say 6 steps back, but it's more like 4 steps forward, 10 steps back, if we're going to be real. This is the first time in our history that we ever went backwards like that. And we could have stopped this, and we didn't do it. And now we have emboldened and empowered our enemies who hate us the most, who are celebrating this right now. Again, Black political power has been broken in half, basically. 160 years of struggle went up in smoke. Just went up in smoke. And the average bozo who's like covering this and making it seem like it's no big deal or it's actually helping black people has no idea about this. Oh, you said he's talking about the weakening of the Voting Rights Act. I'm pretty sure Umar's saying something stupid like the rest of these bozos. I'm pretty sure. But I'll probably check it out maybe today, maybe tomorrow. But yeah, I'm pretty sure. You can't listen. I'm going to put you on timeout if you ever say that again. Move to a blue state, problem solved. One, most black people are moving out of blue states because of gentrification. Two, that's not problem solved. Because black people can move to blue states. That doesn't mean we have black representation. Remember, those are black districts where black people get to choose their candidate. Black people are free to vote Democrat, free to vote Republican, free to vote independent, free to vote third party, free to create their own party. That's what those districts were created for. Those districts were not created to give Democrats control. Districts were created to give black people control. Black people control. A bunch of black people moving north ain't going to equal to black people getting control or having safe districts where we have all the control. That's not going to equal that if we just move north. Talking about move to a blue state. Like you can't be that stupid. But yeah, let's keep going. What you say? You say? I don't know who that is, but maybe I'll be able to check them out. But yeah.
Believed to be our friends on the right who are showing us true colors today, because the most sacred, or one of the most sacred acts you have in the United States of America is the ability to cast a ballot and elect someone and send them to Congress, the state house, or a mayoral seat that represents your interest. And now black folks throughout the South are being silenced. And I don't find that to be a laughing matter.
I heard you say that people are losing representation. People are losing their voice. No voter has lost their voice at all. No one's been disenfranchised. Every voter in America before these court rulings could go cast a ballot this November, and every voter in America, white, black, or otherwise, can go cast a ballot right now. The lines may be changing, but every voter still has the same amount of voting power, one vote, that they...
That's a lie. That's a lie. That's a lie. They don't have the same power. If we had the same power, then how come black people can't elect their own representatives? Because remember, they're splitting up black districts to create environments where no matter how many black people vote and who they vote for, the Republicans still gonna win. No matter what they do, the Republican gonna still win. So how is this the same? It's not the same. These lines are being specifically drawn to destroy and diminish black power. Diminish and destroy black power. But yeah, keep it going. Keep telling the lies. That's why I couldn't do this. Like I see Bakari Sellers, he got bags under his eyes. I know he hasn't been sleeping. I know. And I could not be sitting on no panel and letting people like this play in my face. I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. Maybe I could do it if the bag is big enough, but otherwise than that, nah, couldn't.
They had. It's just that this Supreme Court said your race doesn't necessarily have to dictate your political identity. The fact that you're an American citizen and your franchise gives you one vote, that is your political identity. And it is incumbent upon both parties, Republicans and Democrats, to run people who speak not to just one constituency, but all American interests. To me, that's how the November election should be run.
Please.
Go ahead, Ashley.
I might agree with you if they hadn't said something different 3 years ago. We aren't talking about in Alabama a district that existed when my grandmother was alive. We're talking about a district that was drawn in 2023 because there are injustices that are still being placed. We're talking about Memphis, where we're not it's not just one person across the street. They split a whole city into three to make black voters have less power in House maps. The Voting Rights Act.
Yes, they split Memphis into between three other Republicans' congressional districts, which means no matter how much voting goes on in Memphis, the Republican is going to still win. Every adult can vote and it won't change anything. Voting effectively doesn't matter because they're going to win regardless. Like voting at the congressional level, like, or let's say, for example, at the House of Representative level, effectively doesn't matter. You can say for the Senate too. It doesn't matter. The whole Congress. Voting for at Congress for black people in the South effectively doesn't even matter. Doesn't even matter. Doesn't matter if you get 100% of the black people to show up, 1% of the black people to show up. Doesn't matter. That's what we at right now. Yes, just lying in their face. And just lying with a straight face. I couldn't do that. I couldn't let nobody play in my face like they don't know, they don't see what's going on. Like they don't understand what's happening. And I gotta sit there and talk to them like they don't know what's happening. Like they know what's happening, but they're pretending they don't know what's happening. I know they know what's happening, but they're pretending they don't know what's happening. But now I gotta pretend like I don't know that, and I gotta explain it to them like they legitimately are confused or they don't understand the issue at hand. I couldn't do that. Matter of fact, I can't say what I can't do, but it's like, would I want to do something like that? Would I want to be sitting on the stage like this, letting somebody play in my face like this, acting like they don't know what's going on? Like, this is not no regular white person off the street. These are like some of the most educated people in the country playing dumb. Playing dumb. People who probably know black history better than 90% of the black population, sitting up here playing dumb. Know American history better than 90% of the population, total population, sitting up here acting like they don't know what's going on. Shout out to Red Pill Zulu in the building for setting it off. For setting it off. Family, you can support the stream. Remember, if you want to support financially, you can support PayPal, Cash App. I take it all. Whole lot of ones beat a whole lot of nuns any day of the week. If you don't want to be seen, because some people want to donate, but they don't want to be seen. Hit me on the PayPal, hit me on the Cash App if you don't want to be seen. If you want to be seen, here you go. Shoot. The super thanks, super sticker, super chat. I take it all. Yes, they don't care because they feel that way because they are being informed by people like Umar Johnson, Tariq Nasheed, Candace Owens, and a whole bunch of others who are playing on their top. See, the average black person don't actually know black history. If we being real, the average black person, if they had to take a 5th grade black history test, the equivalent of a 5th grade black history test, they would fail that test. They would fail that test. The 5th grade equivalent, they would fail that test. So they don't actually understand. You got a whole host of black people who don't think it's a big deal that we slide them back into Jim Crow because they think black people live better under Jim Crow because of Black Wall Street or something like that. Like, oh, black people was doing so good. They think everybody black lived in Black Wall Street. They think Black Wall Street was Wakanda. That's why we in here. Like Charleston White, it's a whole gambit of them. Kanye, Charleston White, Tariq Nasheed, Umar Johnson, Candace Owens. Just your regular dumb nigga. Yeah, it's a whole bunch of them. Hello, peace, peace, peace. Lee, shout out to you. I ain't see you in a minute, but let's get back to this.
Which actually was the last time it actually was reauthorized was under your boss, George W. Bush. It used to be a bipartisan thing. It used to be clear that the backdrop of this country, there is discrimination now. There was pervasive discrimination when the law was signed into law during the civil rights movement. We can all go into our partisan corners, but to act like what is happening right now is not a direct attack on Black voters' power, Black voters' ability to represent themselves. Now, we had this conversation yesterday, Scott. Black voters are allowed to elect whoever they want. And in 2024, they did. They elected a Black Democrat in that new district in Alabama. That Black Democrat went through a primary of 13 people, and Black voters found the agency to come and decide how that primary now will be erased. And put a Black Republican up in that district if you want Black voters to have a choice. But they're not. That's not what's happening. It is a dissemination, of distribution of Black power. And to call it anything other than that, I just think is being historically ignoring the past of our country and pretending like we're not trying to drive our country to a different type of future.
One of the interesting things about Tennessee that we should also keep in mind is that Tennessee district that they did away with existed prior to the Voting Rights Act. So Memphis as a city has been a district even before they were trying to rectify racial discrimination with the Voting Rights Act. So
Dag, I didn't even know that, which means how far back are we going? Dag, Memphis was already their own area before the Voting Rights Act. I didn't even know that. Which means Tennessee should have had 2 black districts. If Memphis was already black, they should have had at least 2. But we going back further than the Voting Rights Act? Damn. Good thing I watched this video. I didn't even know that.
So, we're going to start to see maybe Virginia might try again and create that. Maybe they might try to create an 11-0 map, because now, according to the Supreme Court, you can. We might live in a country where all around the country, we have states where the minority political party has effectively 0 representation in Congress.
I think everybody should take confidence in the fact Supreme Court basically supported 1 vote, 1 person, guaranteed in perpetuity. And the rest is just map wars. And I think we should get used to it. And I think it's, as you said, a state-based situation. Add this to the mix. At the end of the day, the state decides at the state level. It's in the Constitution. Get over it.
So the problem with that sentiment is that you were born in 1954.
Yeah.
Okay. You're
Very
70.
popular
You're 71.
Yeah.
Right. In 1954.
By the way, I'm a vampire. I'm never gonna die someday.
During your lifetime, we've actually had Brown v. Board of Education.
I remember.
Yeah, Brown v. Board of Education. I don't know how you remember it. I think you were like 2 months old. But
But
I'm
I'm
not finished yet. Let me finish my thought.
Drill back to 54.
Yeah, because you're still alive, right? And so there's an entire generation of people. Brown v. Board, it overturned Plessy v. Ferguson
And
of
your point
1896. My point is that my mother was born in 1951. She desegregated schools. My father was shot in the civil rights movement. Those people.
Let him finish.
I'm going to finish because you're being utterly disrespectful.
Not at all.
So I'm going to finish this comment. So what I'm telling you is that there are people in this country who fought, died, and bled for the right to vote. Don't be a dick. Just understand.
Okay. Bakari,
just
please.
I'm not
understand.
a dick. I'm pointing something out to you. The Constitution is being upheld. Do you have a problem with that? Do you have a problem with the Constitution of the United States of America?
Bakari, I'm going to stop you because I just want everybody to
See, again, you could tell like it's getting too much to let somebody play in your face like that. To let somebody play in your face like that is just over the top, too crazy. That's what I'm saying. Like that's what I'm saying, Frank Nitty. Why even be there? Like, why even be there? Like that's crazy to have somebody playing in your face. You talking about the history of this nation. You talking about your family, talking about how your mother had to go through desegregation, how your father was shot trying to end Jim Crow. And this dude is sitting in your face and get to the point and like come on. Of course, I could see, like you heard him. He like, yo, stop being a dick. Like he started heating up because it's like, how much can you take? How much can a person take to be letting somebody play in your face like that? Okay, you had your chance. I'm banning you now because now you playing games. Because again, we already addressed you. I tried to give you some, try to treat you with some respect and some courtesy, but you being a bozo. And we don't got time for bozos. Because again, you basically saying it's okay that black people lose political power that we fought for 160 years to get because you claiming that some Democrats somewhere in sanctuary cities care about illegals. So what? So, because guess what? Us losing political power ain't gonna stop them from caring about them. In fact, they're gonna that doesn't help us. How does that help us? How did black people losing their political power that they fought 160 years for stop what you talking about with sanctuary cities? How does that stop sanctuary cities? And the people you talking about, they didn't even represent sanctuary cities. Like let's be serious. So some white Democrats in the North or on the West Coast, on the East Coast create sanctuary cities. So you mad about that? So you co-signing black people in the South losing political representation that they fought 160 years to get. That's the result. See, this is the problem when people keep talking about the Democratic Party like they some mystical cabal of white people sitting somewhere that just be puppeteering black people. Like they just be some mystical cabal of just sitting around puppeteering black people somewhere. That's what it is when y'all keep commenting like this. Ridiculous.
Set with a modicum of respect at this table. Please stop.
I want you to understand
That's
that there is a
Mr.
price.
to you, by
There
the
is a price that was paid for this right. There is a price that we uphold, and whether or not
Where are
you
you going
value
with
that,
this?
whether or not you value that or not, there are people who bled, sweat, and died, and were imprisoned for access to the ballot box. And what we're
They still
seeing
have access.
what we're seeing throughout the South is that their voice, their vote, their representation, and people who have lived experiences to represent them are not being sent to Congress or where they need to go.
This debate, by the way, is happening among the justices. If you look at the Louisiana decision, the conservatives are saying, we've made great progress. It's time to let go of using racial
And
discrimination.
that's why I utilize the description of
and the liberal
also,
justices say exactly what you just said,
but
Bakari,
also,
which is there's a history here that we're overlooking.
Ellie,
Yeah.
I mean, the 3 years have passed since 2023
Yeah.
and 2026.
Exactly.
So
It's not that
all
long.
of a sudden, the country has made that
much progress?
in
And
3 years.
that's the criticism of the majority. Look, there's a famous quote by Ruth Bader Ginsburg, right? When the Voting Rights Act came,
Who should have retired?
when the Voting Rights Act came up, when she was on the bench, she said,
Why do people keep saying she should have retired? Her retiring would have made things worse. Y'all act like she was like there wasn't an open seat already while y'all was calling for her to retire. The Republicans were blocking Obama. He wasn't going to be able to appoint anybody. Like, I don't know why people keep missing that point. Her retiring wouldn't have did anything. That's like Lefty Cope. Like, oh, this ain't really our fault for saying never Hillary and don't vote for Hillary Clinton, that Trump got to pick all these Supreme Court justices. If Ruth Bader Ginsburg would have retired, maybe Obama could have replaced her. Obama couldn't replace her because he couldn't even fill the open vacancy. So how was he going to replace her? That would have just created 2 open vacancies. Yep, she is. Yeah, let's get back to this.
the conservatives said, well, we've made great progress, so we don't need this anymore. She said, I'm paraphrasing, but she said, that's like getting rid of your umbrella in a rainstorm because you're not getting wet.
Yes.
And the question is it still raining? Is it drizzling? Is it clear? People differ strongly on that.
And guess what? It can be clear one day and rain the next. And so that's the inconsistency.
And the crazy part is, go ahead.
I just want to point out the one person, one vote. I think, Bakari, us millennials will have to wrestle with how we're going to leave this earth. And I'm determined to leave it better than I found it. And I think that this decision is actually going to open a rush to reevaluate a lot of things that you say are in the Constitution. Because right now you have a hat on that says Utah, and they have more representation in the Senate than the people actually in Alabama have.
I
in
got
the
a
Senate.
situation in Utah going on.
I know that's not why you have the hat on.
No, I
but
have it on.
You have it on, and so there are states right
I'm
now that have
supporting
two
the people of
senators.
Utah.
When we're sitting in a state right now that has more population than Utah multiplied by 10, and so if we
You
really
don't like
want to
Utah?
talk about,
I love Utah.
I'm talking about all the states that have smaller populations. If we really want to talk about one person, one vote, and if we really want to go down a path to see what real franchise means, you might have just opened a discussion that this country should be. It's timely to actually have.
It's not time to have, because that's like far fetched. Like, think about it. That whole conversation about, well,
we have to recognize that this redistricting was done in response to,
like, let's be clear. Like, that whole conversation that every state should get at least one senator, and then the other 50 get redistrict based on population. That's a whole far-fetched conversation that ain't nowhere near about to happen. Like, I don't even like that she even entertained that, or even brought that up. We having a conversation about black people not even having the right votes, not even mattering no more. Going back to Jim Crow, now we talking about some lefty pie in the sky dream of redistricting. Not redistricting. Redistributing 50 senators to the more populated states. Come on, man. Let's get out of here with that. It wasn't enough. Remember, Obama and them had the majority before. It wasn't enough. It wasn't enough. They wasn't going to get her through. It wasn't going to get her confirmed. And again, when people was asking, people were at, and let's be clear. Matter of fact, let me reverse that. The people who were asking her to retire were asking her to retire when Mitch McConnell was in charge of the Senate. That's when the real calls for her to retire happened. When Mitch McConnell was in charge of the Senate. And she said, no, I'm not going to retire. I'm going to wait till Hillary Clinton win the election. That's when the calls for her to retire really came about. Like in 2015, 2016. That's when the calls really came about. No, it was 2016. 2016, that's when people really started calling for her to retire. And it wasn't until like what? Hillary Clinton like officially lost when people, and that talking point really blew up. You said, what did black people, Americans bring on themselves? They brought them themselves by letting Trump get into office. That's how you bring it on yourself. It was like literally a choice. Like going back to Hillary Clinton. Everybody knew, since we talked about the Supreme Court, that if Trump got elected, he was going to get at least 2 Supreme Court justices, maybe 3. And he got 3, which created the 6-3 Supreme Court that we have. 6-3 conservative Supreme Court. Not just 6-3 conservative, but Trump conservatives. Trump picks, MAGA judges who don't even care about pretending to be nonpartisan. They don't even care. That's what we got right now. That's how that's the tool by which we will go back into Jim Crow and be kept there via that Supreme Court. Everybody knew that was a possibility. Not just a possibility. Everybody knew that was going to happen. Black people could have single-handedly brought this election home for themselves. Like, again, this is like election happening, and it's like, well, it's between Hillary Clinton and the ghost of Adolf Hitler. And Jews can single-handedly help Hillary Clinton win, but they choose not to. And then the ghost of Adolf Hitler becomes president, and he does the Holocaust 2.0. And he campaigned on doing the Holocaust 2.0 if he wins. And people let him win. And it's like, now it's like, who could have saw this coming? How was it our fault? Why didn't somebody else vote for Hillary? Why they didn't have a better candidate? Like, no, unacceptable. Yeah, so that's what I mean. Yes. That was the official beginning. I know that. They should have terms. They especially like, I understand like in the beginning they said it was a life appointment, but yeah, they should be terms for that, and they should have some retirement ages on them. But yeah, that's a whole different conversation that ain't gonna happen. And even if they did have these terms and whatever the case may be, still in all, the president picks. So if you allow the president like Trump to get in office, that's what you're gonna get. Yes, this is the result of sitting on the couch. But yeah, let's move on. Sitting on the couch. Is Fahima in the building? Because she sent me this and she wanted me to go over this. Shout out to everybody in the building. You can send me stuff to look at, and I may see it, I may not see it, I may go over it, I may not go over it. But if you donate, I'm guaranteed to see it, and I'm guaranteed to go over it. But here we go. Let me switch to this right here. I don't know what this is about. But yeah, we're going to get into this. Shout out to everybody in the building. Y'all can see it on screen. All right, yeah. Let's keep it going. Make sure y'all liking this video.
Mr. Edward.
Hey, what's up, Terry?
How are you?
By the way, I'm good. Have you said happy Mother's Day to your mom?
Happy Day to your mother as well, sir.
Oh, good. Okay. So then we are going to have this argument in good faith.
Okay, argument. Okay, and by the way, Edward, remind me, because we spoke before, right?
I know we've spoke multiple times.
You're from where again? Refresh me.
I was born in Zambia, but I'm American.
You were born in Zambia. How long you been over here?
A long time.
Okay, well,
just a long time. Like, just know. Like I've been here since I went to college.
What tribe in Zambia are you from?
Bemba.
Bemba. Got it. Okay.
All right. By the way, how was your time in Ghana? How was it? Did you enjoy
Ghana? I went to Senegal.
Oh, Senegal. Oh, my bad. How was it?
It was cool. I had a great time. Every time I go places on vacation, I have a good time.
That's good to know.
Go ahead.
All right. Anyway, with the platform that you've got, like, and the people that follow you, like, why don't you use that power instead of like dividing?
Divide.
Like, yeah.
If something has to be together to be divided, what's together that was divided by me?
Black people. Like black people, just like anytime, like if you and me were